So they stole it. Why do you know where they took me? Though I want that. Can I have my iPad?
Yes, but if the statement of intent is torn up, then you don't have a GNU. And then we're released from any obligation in motions of no confidence, in whatever happens before Parliament. We'll be released from those obligations. And I think that you will also know that the statement of intent talks about proportionality in the cabinet seats. Where are the cabinet seats that are going to be given to other people going to come from? Are you going to take from other parties and give away? Is the ANC going to give up some of their seats? Remember, all of these things are a delicate negotiation, just like any coalition in the world. In Germany, Japan, many of the other countries, it's based on the coalition agreement. The German government fell over a fallout in the budget. The Japanese government is negotiating around a budget. But all of these essentially at the end of the day come back to the agreement between the parties. You can't just simply tear up the statement of intent. It is the very basis and foundation, and the president's actions would have to be determined of that. Of course, he appoints and disappoints ministers, but this is not the unfettered and unconstrained position that you had when your party had a majority. The ANC is now a 39% party, and they have to govern with others, and that governing arrangement is done on the basis of the statement of intent. Well, the statement of intent, which is the formation of the GNU, says very clearly that if new parties are brought on board, there has to be agreement by the parties that are signatories. We've not been formally approached. However, I would say that if there were moves to remove the DA from the GNU, I think that given the current geopolitical environment, that it would be a mistake.
Not removal of the DA, but bringing in those parties in government. And secondly, remember, it's the prerogative of the president to appoint and release ministers.
Of course, but remember, the government is formed on the basis of the statement of intent.
No, but the constitution is the guiding document in terms of how the country should be handled, be led, or how you run the government. The president has got the prerogative, according to the constitution, to appoint or to relieve ministers. The statement of intent, it's a political agreement. It's neither an act of parliament nor a constitutional obligation with separation of powers. I'm sure you understand that.
Yes, of course, but remember, the president himself was elected on the basis of the statement of intent. So
the appointment of the president and the election of the president, it was done in parliament, an independent arm of state, and there was agreement to elect him. He's now the head of state. The constitution says the president has a prerogative to appoint or to relieve the ministers.
But the statement of intent is also very clear.
But the statement of intent, it's not an act.
Yeah, but it's a coalition agreement. It's the coalition agreement.
The statement of intent, it's not an act of parliament. Secondly, it's not
Parliament to court, because you may remember that it's a two-part application.
But at the end of the day, the contestation, it's around the budget. The
Correct.
GNU member taking the very same government to court. That is why you had parliament and government having to respond, the government you belong to.
Yes, of course. But I mean, this was a matter of due process. There are the money laws bills that determine how legislation is passed in South Africa and the procedures that must be followed. And that was the Part A attack on this particular decision, which we are very confident will win. The Part B attack is on what we regard as a constitutional lacuna around the powers of the finance minister to be able to determine a VAT rate. And the finance minister, under the current law, could put VAT up by 25%, and Parliament has no say on it. And that's what we're saying needs to be reviewed by the courts, and we need to fix it, because we are in a new era of budgeting. It's not one party determining the budget, Treasury coming and saying this is what's going to happen. There now needs to be consensus building around it, and I really hope that we are going to be able to find consensus so that we can use the majority that the GNU has to pass all the budget instruments. Remember, we've still got DORA, we've still got the money laws, money rates amendment bill that's got to come to Parliament. And now there's going to have to be a new fiscal framework that's voted upon. All of these things are going to require a majority. And so there does need to be, I think, far more consensus on how we arrive at these decisions going forward. Well, let me just say, when I first visited Ukraine, South Africa's stance at that time was anything but non-aligned. That stance was very much pro-Russia.
No, it was aligned. They did emphasize,
yeah.
and we kept doing that story. The president even visited Kyiv and Moscow.
But only after a number of months had taken place. But look, I think that what we have now is an opportunity for South Africa, as one of the leading countries in the global south, to use this platform and our leverage to play a role in bringing peace in that particular region. South Africa, given its position in BRICS and in a variety of other organizations, clearly has a relationship with Russia. And I think that we have an opportunity now to use those ties to be able to do precisely what President Ramaphosa is seeking to do, which is to bring peace to the region. And I think it's very brave that the President is making this move. And I think that it's also helpful that you've got a country in the global south that's outside of the global north dynamics of the conflict, that is able to work towards brokering some sort of peace that's going to lead to a resolution in Ukraine. And I think that certainly is the right thing to be doing. And I'm entirely supportive of our President in those efforts and initiatives.
Conscientiously, okay? And the best of my ability. Conscientiously.